My name's Leo Hahn. I'm an OBGYN resident at the University of Colorado Hospital. Let's talk about STDs tonight. So Tiger Woods is actually my first choice for subject matter, but some people think I look a lot like Tiger Woods, and tonight that's not a connection I'm trying to foster in this talk, all right? I think the title speaks for itself tonight, so let's just get started. So to do this, I did 4 assumptions. 1, Bond always hits a home run. 2, hits and quits it. 3, never wears a condom. And 4, never gets STD tested. Now, I used 2 statistics to do this analysis. 1 is the prevalence of disease in a population. For that, I use U.S. numbers so that you guys would, understand your own risk. And 2, the rate of transmission of a single unprotected sexual encounter. And for most of these numbers, I use CDC numbers and some of them from the WHO. This is serious stuff here. All right, now, this is the demographic we're dealing with. The point of this slide is to convey that Bond is an international player that slept with a lot of women from a lot of different countries over a lot of decades with a lot of unique risk factors. All right, so let's get started with gonorrhea and chlamydia, the 2 most common STDs. Now, unfortunately, for some men and most women, you don't know you have it. And even more unfortunate for the women out there, you're the one that bear the consequences of having this disease in the long term, pain, infertility, and so on and so forth. Now, the good news is, along with syphilis, these are 3 bacterial infections that are easily curable by basic antibiotics. So that even though Bond has a pretty good chance of having chlamydia, say 2/3, if he actually got tested, he'd be cured. Now, herpes, we know what herpes is. It's a viral infection. We know it's incurable. We know it causes painful outbreaks, yada, yada, yada. But what 85% of us don't know is that we have herpes, unfortunately. But there's really not much more to herpes other than the painful outbreaks. So I don't know if that's, something to be concerned about. Now, herpes is very, very prevalent in the U.S. population. And the transmission rate is pretty quite high. So I think if you just crunch numbers on Bond's risk of 84 unprotected sexual partners, about 42%. HIV, we all know what HIV is, right? So we also know that if we lived in sub-Saharan Africa today, that 1/4 of us in this room would probably be HIV positive. Now, what you may not know is that HIV is actually not a very virulent virus, and that the transmission rate for HIV is extremely low. And that in a single unprotected encounter, from Bond's perspective, it's about 4 in 10,000 for receiving HIV with an HIV partner. So that if you put all 84 of Bond's partners in Swaziland, the country with the highest HIV rate in the world, he'd still have a less than 1% chance of having HIV after all of that. Again, these are unprotected sexual encounters. And obviously in the US, it's much, much lower. Now, HPV, here's the quick and dirty. Low-risk HPV causes genital warts. High-risk HPV causes anal genital cancer, but most prominently cervical cancer. Now, HPV is that classic STD. If I told everyone in the room to look to the person to the left and look to the person to the right, you probably would have just looked at 2 people that have HPV or have had HPV. HPV is everywhere, all right? The good news is most of us clear it. Now, this is Strawberry Fields. She's probably the only sexual partner of James Bond to have been under the age of 26 after the year 2006, when she may have been vaccinated with Gardasil. So she may have been protected against some of the more virulent cancer-causing strains of HPV. So, bottom line, what are the chances that Bond doesn't have an STD? Well, if you exclude HPV, it's a pretty low chance, about 1 in 10, all right? Now, what if Bond had actually worn a condom through all this? Well, condoms lower your STD risk uniformly. That's without a doubt, but some more than others. And in cases of HPV, not as much as, say, HIV. So I have his risk being down about 40% from the, complex math I did. So let's not forget about the blowjobs. I just wanted to highlight here that, oral cancers, throat and mouth cancer have been associated with HPV transmission through oral sex, which you might not know. And there are other reasons why you should not have unprotected sex besides STDs, including a 3% pregnancy rate. So what's the bottom line of the 5-minute presentation I've given? Well, 4 quick things. Number 1, Bond he probably has an STD. He probably doesn't have an HIV. He probably has something that's curable, and he almost certainly has something that you've had too, okay? And one last thing. We're not all bond here, but if you're going to go see your doctor, don't just try to sleep with her. Just get tested, all right? Thank you very much, and good night.